And right on time, our boy he tacoed on China
Yeah.
because apparently getting tough on China is extending I'm going to extend the pause 90 days, not because Nvidia paid me, to extend that pause on the tariffs because I'm going to get tough on you, China. Yeah.
I mean, it is Taco Tuesday. We weren't planning on making this a weekly series, but it's like every Tuesday he tacos out. Every day he tacos out. But today,
Okay.
yes. Today he tacoed out because Nvidia, whose chairman he was accusing of being a Chinese spy and calling on to resign, 48 hours ago or something? Less?
Sure. Yeah.
Um, Suddenly now that chairman of Nvidia is like his best friend.
Of course.
And what's interesting is, in addition to the taco-ness of this, is that apparently now the United States government is getting into the business of private business. The same people who scream about communism and socialism. I mean, what is more socialist than the federal government determining how private businesses are going to be not only doing their work, but actually nationalizing part of their business because the money is going to be coming back to the U.S. Treasury? Not in the form of taxes, in the form of literally like nationalization almost.
Right. Because when you blur the line between private business entities like Trump and, whatever grift or whatever he's doing, and you can just basically make a bribe. You're going to have images like Tim Cook showing up to the White House and going, here's a golden whatever, like,
And my question is not just is Tim Cook showing up with a golden whatever, how much money, and I'm not suggesting that Apple does this because I think Apple is potentially too smart to do this, but the smaller ones, or for that matter, the Chinese who keep getting a break, unlike the Indians who are not getting a break or the Brazilians who are not getting a break, how much are they funneling into world financial lenders? Is that what it's called?
yeah.
How much are they funneling into the Trump meme coin or the Melania meme coin? And the media is kind of just, another day another dollar for Trump. Like,
Right. You have Jessica Tarloff or people like us talking about it,
and I mean,
and
Jesse Tarlov is fantastic. Jesse Tarlov
yep.
is a good friend, and I love her. But Jesse Tarlov is one person who's trying to do this on Fox. And the problem is that who knows how long she's going to stick around, because eventually Trump's going to get fed up and he's going to make a call to good old Suzanne Scott, who's runs Fox News, and we'll see if Jesse Tarlov sticks around. They don't tend to stick around much when Trump decides he wants you gone. So, all of that I think is something to bear in mind, but it's also really dispiriting.
It is because this is the definition of, like, forget oligarchy. This is like a kleptocracy. This is
Well, it's Russia. It's Russia. It's China. It's Putin. That's the problem.
Yep. It's gangster capitalism. It's like you've got to let the boss wet his beak, so to speak, and then he'll change policy. And it's not because it doesn't matter whether it's good for America or not. That's not even a question at this point. It's whether it's good for the boss, and which is Trump, because Trump treats the U.S. Treasury, cuts to any department like it's his personal company. And you kind of see that's the way he talks about it, where it's just like, well, I'm not spending up money on natural disasters. It's like, it's not your money. It's FEMA. It's our taxpayer
Our
dollars.
money. It's
Right.
our money.
It's not your money. It's not like you're personally spending money on, disaster relief in Arkansas or in Tennessee or wherever it is. It's our taxpayer dollars, and this is what we want. This is what we need as citizens for this country. Like, I'd be fine if the tariffs made sense, and said, hey, we're trying to protect this business. We're trying to bring superconductors back. So we're doing targeted tariffs. We're doing this, this, and this. But the tell is obviously they don't, because you can extend them. Doesn't matter, right? Nvidia comes to you and says, well, we'll give you this, this, and this. Oh, well, I'm going to do 90 days. We're just, we're good. Like, we're going to give them Xi more time to think about it.
She is celebrating. She's getting the United States to invest in his AI programs, and it's Nvidia who's going to have to be paying for it. It's crazy. I mean, all of this is crazy. And, you're talking about the money that belongs to us. The money that belongs to us is now being used to, I don't know, beautify the Kennedy Center, which he says he's going to pay for, which of course we're paying for, which is he's now referring to as the Trump Center.
You mean the Trump Melania Trump Center?
Well, I'm going to tell you this. Mark my words. I tweeted this out today. Mark my words. Before he leaves office, which I don't know if it's going to be in the next 3.5 years, because as far as I'm concerned, he's going to stay until, he dies. But he's going to have a Trump monument on the National Mall.
Oh, yeah.
There's going to be, which is going to be bigger and more golden than the Washington Monument or the Lincoln Memorial or the Jefferson Memorial or anything else. I can guarantee it. And we're going to be paying for it. And for anybody who says, well, it has to go through the commission and it has to go through all of this, bullshit. Sorry. But he's going to build it, and who's going to stop him? And Congress will appropriate money for it, and I guarantee you it's going to happen. But more relevantly, he's also spending our money, which really is beyond offensive, on a takeover of the Washington, D.C. Police Department to send FBI agents who should be focused, on spies and criminals, not the kind that rob people like big balls, but, the kind that mastermind terrorist attacks.
Yeah.
They're now basically patrolling the streets of Washington, which has never had a safer year in 30 years than it has right now. All because Big Balls, the guy who is a 20-something-year-old, I think he's 19 or 20-year-old college dropout, who was also an instrumental person in Doge, got beat up by a bunch of teenagers.
I honestly think that was staged. I'm like, they're turning me into a conspiracy theorist because I'm looking at, I've done, I've worked in entertainment. I've seen fake blood. I've seen how it's like, and I'm looking at this going like, he had his shirt thrown over his shoulder, and I was like, boy, that shirt looks pretty well together, even though it's, for someone who's been in a fight, like, yeah, I'm looking at the marks on him, and it's like, okay, where did you get hit? Like, where's the blood? I'm not seeing any cuts on his face. I'm not seeing a busted nose. I'm seeing a lot of blood that looks like somebody applied it, this is what a busted nose looks like. It's, yeah, maybe. Usually it kind of goes straight down because you get punched and but look, I digress. I could be wrong, but I just don't try. It's awfully convenient. The timing is just amazing. And it's like teenagers harassed me. It's like, I was trying to stop a carjacking. Like, okay. What, like, dude, no, you weren't. No, you weren't. You're not the kind of guy that does that. You are not the...
If it's true, Big Balls, they're maybe not so big, right? Because maybe Big Balls.
Like, if it's 4-on-1, look, I would have a time, taking on 4 teenagers. But it's like, I guarantee you, a guy like the name Big Balls and the way he approaches through the world, it's like, bro, you don't even want to pay for a woman on the first date, for her meal. You want to split. So, I think we're splitting the check. Hey, man, you're not putting yourself at risk for a carjacking? Come on, dude. You're not that guy. You are not that guy.
Right? The problem is every accusation is an admission. And all of their accusations about the crazy conspiracies about Epstein and pedophilia and this and that, they all turn out to be admissions.
Yeah.
And the question for me, I guess, is, was this staged? I have not been the last time I was in a fight was in 4th grade, so I actually don't know what somebody's...
You've actually been in a fight? Like, really?
Let me tell you something. In 4th grade, I'll never forget this. There was a boy named Igor Rosenblit. Igor Rosenblit, if you are watching this right now, I'm so sorry. but he cut in front of me in the lunch line when I specifically told my friend Susan to save my place because I had to use the bathroom. Specifically, loudly said, save my place in this lunch line. And when I came back, he did not respect that. He
Oh
did
my
not
goodness.
let me go back in place in the lunch line. So I kind of wound up and I punched him in the nose and it started bleeding and he started crying. And I didn't get in trouble because I smartly ran to Miss Myers, the third grade teacher who was on lunch duty. And I said, Miss Myers, Igor is very upset and he's crying and his nose is bleeding. And he tried to sell me out, but because I was such a sweet girl telling her about this, that I did not get in trouble. So I apologize to you, Igor Rosenblit. I still remember his name.
Igor Rosenblit.
Igor Rosenblit's mother and my mother are friends. His mother called my mother to complain about what a savage I was. My mother was like, yeah, whatever. And that was the end of that. That was my last fight. That was in fourth grade. So I was 9. So that was 43 years ago. So I actually don't have a good recollection of what a busted nose looks like. But he did bleed. I did make him bleed.
So I've done some amateur boxing. I've had my nose busted. I've never had it broke. I've had busted lips plenty of times. I've had my head cut. Basically, like, you bust the nose, it kind of, depending on how bad it breaks, it all tends to go down, right? The only way it's going to get all over you here, and here, and here, and here is if you're just literally just doing this, right? Head wounds bleed pretty bad, but your face is like, it's non-threatening. That's why wrestlers, like, they'll take a razor and they'll just do a little nick, and you can't see it, and it'll pour all over your face. You'll have this gory red mess of a face, right? So, I'm looking at his wounds, and it literally looks like someone just kind of took stage blood and just kind of, from a bot or whatever, and just did the flick, right? Because it looks like a Pollock painting, And again, I'm not a blood splatter. I'm not Dexter, right? I'm not looking at,
blood splatter.
Yeah, I'm not looking at blood splatter evidence, but I've also been a bouncer in a nightclub. I was a Marine reservist who was pretty damn raucous, and from like his 18 to about 22. I've been, as in the South, I've been in a few tussles. Okay. I've tussled. So, like, I look at this guy and I'm like, bruh, like, it just, I mean, to have that much blood on you, right? You've either had to you have broken your nose and his nose didn't look broke, or you've got cut in other places, like, you got your head busted on the pavement and the cut, and then but then your face is going to be a gory mess, right?
Yeah, and his eyes weren't really like
No,
swollen.
they weren't puffy. I mean, if you break your nose, man, it's like,
Don't you have like raccoon eyes?
it's almost immediate.
Yeah.
Or you could bust here, right? Like, someone hits you and like, because you have such a thin skin on that eye socket. That's where boxers get those wounds, because it's like, you hit it just right, it'll split open. You get enough trauma in there, it'll split. But you see it immediately, and I'm looking at his face, going like, ain't no broke nose. There ain't no, there's nothing to indicate that he's got a black eye. There's no splits here. There's no busted lip. So unless he bit the shit out of his tongue, and bled everywhere, right? Which is possible. It's like you got your tongue hanging out and someone, wow, hits you with an uppercut. And I did that in playing basketball. I was down low in the post and I was out of breath, and a point guard was much shorter than me, came up and connected me right in the chin, and I bit my tongue and I bit right into my lip, and it was nasty. But what I'm saying is, I'm looking at Mr. Big Balls, I'm like, bro, you don't look like you've been in a fight.
Well, if we're going down the conspiracy theory rabbit hole here, with every grievance that Donald Trump has ever had in his life, like, he still has grievances about the quote unquote Russia hoax, which of course was not a hoax. He still has grievances about Barack Obama making fun of him at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, which is why he's now, Barack Obama is now responsible for all the bad things that ever happened to him in 2016.
Of course.
Don't you think that if Donald Trump had actually been shot in that ear, that we'd be hearing about it every single day about how the Democrats try to kill him and the liberals persuaded this guy and how everybody's out to murder him? Like, we don't hear anything about that shooting in Butler, Pennsylvania. And I would say to you, I would posit that if that actually happened, do we or do we not believe that Donald Trump would be talking about it every single day and trying to pin the blame on every single person who has it? He'd be blaming it on Hillary Clinton. He'd be blaming it on Barack Obama. He'd be blaming it on Joe Biden. He'd be blaming it on Hunter. You don't hear much about that anymore.
No, it's fascinating about, it's fascinating about that because, to your point, if that had actually happened, right, he'd be talking about it nonstop. It would be all the time. And at first I was like, because here again, if you would have narrowly got shot and that actually happened, he 100% would have released the medical transcripts because they back up everything that was saying about that, right? That would be like a badge of honor for him, because he's not going to care about the guy who got, the retired firefighter that got killed in the stands. Not going to care about that guy. He's not going to care about anybody else that got hurt.
Yeah.
He's not going to have the humility of like, I'm just so glad that he's like, well, I'm thankful to be alive. My heart goes out to the poor man, that suffered the ultimate tragedy and his family. He's not going to do that. He'd be like, yeah, I took a bullet. I took a bullet for America and blah, blah, blah. And he'd say, and here's the medical records with the cartilage. It was just, the will of God that I didn't get hit. And so either it was staged or it was literally like a small glass of monitor.
But even the small glass of monitor.
But even that would have been, not a.
It's an assassination attempt. You'd be
right.
God, if someone tried to do that to me, I'd be talking about it every day. Like, it's an assassination attempt.
Right. If that happened to me, an actual legit assassination attempt, I would struggle to not use that as an opener in a bar. I'd be like, hey, what's going on? My name's Frederic Poag. I'd like to buy you a drink. And oh, by the way, I survived an assassination attempt for America.
I am important enough for somebody to try to assassinate me.
People are trying to kill me. That's how important.
Let me tell you something. That's not a good pickup line. No girl's going to go home with you if you think somebody's aiming a gun at you. Nobody wants to be next to you if that's the case. I would advise you not to, as a woman who has had a few lines thrown my way back in my single days, I would advise you not to use that as a pickup line. But I will say this to you.
You were shattering my illusions.
I'm sorry. I love your whole be somebody's house husband in Canada plot from last week. That is a great pickup line, and any Canadian woman would be lucky to have you.
Thank you.
The assassination attempt. I wouldn't go down that road.
See, I'll let you jump before. It's all these manly things that don't work that guys think they will, but they don't. Like what you bench press. Women. No. Women don't care. Or like when I was young and I was in the Marine Corps, they didn't care. Like, maybe you look good in a uniform and they're like, oh, you look nice in your uniform. But it's also like, oh, you look nice in those slacks. It's about the same level of interest.
Yeah. No.
You can't go to like, yeah, I'm an 0351 anti-tank assaultman.
No.
They're not going to be like, oh my God, do you bench like 8 wheels, like 405? Wow.
No. I mean, I'm here to give you dating advice. I'm telling you, the Canada thing, thumbs up, great thing. But if any women in the chat want to join me on this, talking about how much you bench press, that's a little thirsty. That looks a little like that's a little pick me there. That's a little like
it is. It's like you have to do something else with it. It's like yeah. So I was benching 405 when I was reading Simone de Beauvoir's Ethics of Ambiguity because I like to train my mind and my body.
You know what? If you drop that, you would be thirsty and pretentious.
I can't win, Julie.
There's no way.
Can't win.
I know you can. Last week was fantastic.
I feel right. You know what? I understand the pain. Poor ego.
Oh, wait.
Rosenblatt,
Jenny Bloom chimes in. I may be wrong. Jenny Bloom says, I'm a lesbian, no clue, but tanks and bench pressing is dope. All right. Well,
she's a lesbian. I'm already out of the running.
That's true. That's true.
That help me.
That's true.
In fact, I would say, because
you know what I find attractive right now? That you're not one of those guys that thinks you could turn a woman from being a lesbian into being straight because you're so hot. That's a guy. That's a guy thing that guys really do. That's very offensive and annoying.
The only thing I hope there is, because sex is a sliding scale, that there's just like a scintilla that I can, like if it's like, because that's like, it's what I can't believe I'm gonna say this. It's what a buddy of mine referred to as double distilled P word. So
I don't even know what that is.
Because it's women who like women, and since we like women, it's double distilled, right?
Oh, I don't think. I mean, I don't want to. This is not my bailiwick because I'm not a lesbian, but I don't want to speak from Jenny. Maybe you could chime in, but I don't think that's how it works. I don't think it's like.
Here's the thing.
I don't think it's a transitive property thing. I don't think it's a geometric transitive property thing.
Well, this is the nice thing about Gen Z and sort of the acceptance of the queer stuff, right?
Yes.
Is it's not a binary thing. If it's a sliding scale, right? That means if even a hair over here, it's like we have a potential for a window, right? So you always listen. It's like it may be a Hail Mary pass, but you got to throw sometimes. You know what I mean?
Hope springs eternal. So maybe that line works on
now.
Jen.
To your point, I'm not saying that I'm so amazing I can turn, a lesbian who's like no interest in men there. However, if there's a seam, I'm throwing a strike to see if I can get in that seam. That's all I'm saying. That's the difference. You know what I mean? It's like, because we have to try, Julie. When we step on that field, we got to try.
You know what? I got to tell you, I support and absolutely condone that kind of thinking, because
most lesbians don't. Most of them are like,
I'm sure. No, but I'm just saying, generally speaking, if you're out there, I just think if you're going to throw out lines, whoever you throw them out to, if you're bench pressing, not so much.
See, what I actually think that is, I think that's bad intel. What I think that is because we're competing in the same space, for women. What she's trying to do is trick me and using the bad lines so then she can come up. That's what it is. It's a counterintelligence psyop. So you got to be careful with that, because when lesbians say, "Oh, this is what you should say to women," yeah, but you're going for women that like other women, right? You ain't playing in my market. I'm trying to get women that like men. You know what I mean? So if you're saying that, I think you're trying to trick me. You're trying to get them on the scale, and they're going like, "Oh my God, I'm so sick of men. I can't stand them." Well, have you ever tried a woman? See, that's what it is. That's what it is, Julie. They try to trick.
I don't think so, because back in my 20s and 30s when I was single, my friends and I would get together and we'd all talk about how sick we were of men because we were on so many bad dates, and yet I don't think anybody was like, "Wait, maybe I should try women." We just bitched about men for the most part.
Well, again, it goes back to, is like, that may not turn them, but if there's one in there and there's a seam and they're on that sliding scale, you know what I mean? So.
Yeah, I would also tell you the Simone de Beauvoir line.
Oh, okay.
Now, if you were to say you read it in the original French,
see,
that would be
come on now.
That would be even more pretentious. That would be such a non-starter that I would actually get up and walk away. I might humor you on the Simone de Beauvoir line, thinking maybe trying a little hard. But if you're like, "Oh, P.S. read it in French," then I would say,
"Oh my God, that's just insufferable." Okay. At that point.
Yeah, that is insufferable. Yeah. And do I really want to wake up next to this guy the rest of my life where he's talking about Simone de Beauvoir and how he read it in the original French? I mean, you gotta because I don't know about men. Women tend to project like, do I want this guy to be the father of my kids? Do I want to be with this guy every single day? Like on the first date, you kind of envision whether this is somebody you want a future with or not. Like, I'll give you an example. I was once asked out. I will not embarrass him by telling you his name. by a candidate many, many, many years ago, by a candidate for mayor of New York while he was running. And he did not become mayor. He did not become mayor. And immediately I start projecting, do I want to live in Gracie Mansion, which is the mayor's mansion in New York? And then I'm thinking, I don't like that part of town. It's really far from everywhere I like.
But it's the mayor of New York, though.
I don't care. I didn't want to live in Gracie Mansion. I don't like that part of town. It is in a really bad, it's not a bad part of town. It's a really lame part of town. It is a dead part of town. It is by the East River. It is all the way on the Upper East Side. Not my cup of tea. Did not want to do it. Did not want to marry him. Therefore, did not agree to go on a date with him. And he just asked me out. This wasn't even like you were like madly in love. Yeah, that's what I mean. This is how women think. They project. They project like to the end goal here, which is this the person I want to be with forever?
Most men don't think like that. Like most.
No, I know. Most men want to think
some do. I don't want to say all men because like, but most is like, oh, she's cute, or I like this, or she got this kind of vibe going on. I was like, let's see. And then so, you kind of go, you get to know her and then da-da-da. And then later, that's when potentially the feelings are like, well, yeah, it's like, I really like her. I like spending time with her. It's like, she's got good values. She's got this. It's like, okay, let's go there, and then, so then it kind of progresses, but like, now I don't want to say there are some dudes that I've known that think like that. It's like, well, I couldn't see myself settling down with her. So I just said, no. It's like, bro, you just met her like 5 minutes ago. Like, you don't know nothing about her.
But that's why your poutine thing was so great last week, because if you're somebody who's meeting you for the first time, you're like, wait, this guy is going to cook for me and make poutine for me and be my house husband. Like, I could live with that. That sounds great. I will go on a date with him.
See, there you go. And so, like and I would never use the bench press pickup line. None of that just goes back to when I was a younger man, things that I thought were important and I thought were impressive. I was impressed with. Women weren't impressed with.
But I'm giving you advice here that's gold.
It is gold.
Who's listening. And I'm telling you why. Because if you make women think about how you fit into their future plans, you'd understand that bench pressing is not anything they care about, because what's that doing for them? Whereas poutine does something for them.
I mean, that's why, when I was working, in aviation, I'd tell them it's like, 401k, fully vested. Fully.
See? I don't want to brag, but if Social Security is still going to be around when I retire, I qualify because I work.
Qualifying, like, I mean, it's just like, it's like I can upgrade to the premier healthcare package, the family plan. Open enrollment all year, baby.
Now, if you want to set up a 529 right now for your future children to fund their college education, then I don't know why you'd be single by the end of this conversation. You probably have a list of women who are ready to go out with you by now.
It's like, already got that set up. See, this is the kind of, we've segued a little bit, but gents, take notes. I'm telling you.
You guys, I've been through it all. I got married, but I went out with my fair share of bad guys, and I went out with some really good guys. And I'm telling you, what separates the keepers from the guys you don't really want to go out with. I went on a date with a doctor once who was a gastroenterologist, and he spent the entire time, and I'm not kidding, talking about the colon to me. I had nothing more to say. I mean, literally the entire night, talked to me about the colon. And because I was polite, I was like, so tell me what you do. I never understood the function between, I kind of set him up for it, but I was like, I didn't really do that well in biology. So like, I don't really get the small colon, the large intestine, the big intestine. And the answer is, yeah, okay, I get it. And then you move on to talk about things that normal people talk about. No, he took the bait, spent the entire time talking about the intestine, the colon. I mean, I'm sitting there drinking because I just have nothing else to do, because I'm like, I can't even believe I'm sitting here in this date. And that was the last doctor and the only doctor. And this guy probably thought he was a catch because he was a doctor. False. Because
wow.
Because he had thought of nothing else since the age of 18 other than the large intestine and small intestine. So therefore, he had nothing else to offer except a biology lesson, and I just wasn't that interested.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's the colon.
But that's what I'm saying.
Like the heart, like maybe the heart you could probably do, or the brain. right? Like that could be kind of interesting, right?
No, not
No,
interested. Not interested. I mean, if I were
no.
interested, if I were interested, I'd crack open a biology book. I wasn't interested in ninth grade. I'm not interested as an adult. I just don't care. I mean,
Well, you gotta be a good conversationalist. You got
yeah.
to you've got to like say, it's like, hey, well, so what do you like to do? Blah blah blah. Or I'm telling, it's funny, like, and you got to be able to ask good questions and then be able to follow it up, right?
Robert Sawyer maybe he was a body snatcher.
Could have been. He wanted to
He
eat the
didn't have
Coleman.
he didn't have the personality to even bodies. I imagine body snatchers have better personalities than. And then when the food travels down your esophagus, I mean, that guy's not a body. I mean, maybe he was trying to lull me into boredom enough to have me fall asleep, and then he snatched parts of my body. But yeah, not good. Not good. Body
So
snatcher.
was all this in New York? Is this like, are these the New York stories?
Yeah, these are all New York stories. These are all New York stories, and
Wow.
everybody. And the thing is, I was coming up. I'm younger than the Sex and the City women, but not that much younger. So this was all happening in the early 2000s and late 90s when Sex and the City was like the show, and everybody thought that and I was living downtown in the Village where it all took place, and everybody thought Sex and the City was what it was like living in New York City as a single woman. And I will tell you, I don't know where they're finding all these men because they were just not around. And B, none of these men were that interesting. Like,
That's wow.
compared to the Sex and the City men. So yeah, I think a lot of people watch that show. I think a lot of young girls watched that show, moved to New York back then, thinking this was going to be their life. No, they ended up with guys who were doctors who were just boring them to death about intestines and other stuff. True. It's true. I have so many great first date stories like that. It's insane. And I am kind of too old for online dating. I miss the whole online dating. I'm not too old for it. I just never did it. I miss the
Yeah,
whole
I, I
dating
yeah,
stuff.
I got in, I think, after I got divorced. It was like in the early days before Match.com owned everything and turned it into the hellscape that it is now. I remember when OkCupid was free, and it was, they just did it off, they made money off banner ads. So you could kind of like, match with people and it'd be kind of interesting. You could
Right.
actually direct message them. But, after that, and I, yeah, when I was in it, I was in aviation. So I dated women in DC. I dated women in Philly, met a couple women in New York. New York women are always interesting to me
Oh,
because
really? Why?
they're very direct, right? But in a different way than Philly women are. It's like, Philly women are almost like, can be hostile at the jump, right? Because it's Philly. Everybody in
Right.
Philly sounds hostile, right?
Right.
Until you kind of live there and you go, no, it's just the way they talk. New York women were always just like, it's kind of like they wanted you to get to the point of whatever you were trying to do, you know?
To see if you're the guy they're going to spend the rest of their life with. We don't have time to
Yeah.
sit around waiting for you to,
It's just like, all right, buddy, we got appetizers.
benchmark.
What are we doing? What are we doing, huh? It's like,
Exactly. Exactly.
TikTok, it's it's like, where are we living? It's like, I don't know. Ma'am, I just got here. I'm sorry.
I went on a date when I was a Fox. I went on a date with this guy who was a really huge private equity guy. And first, I'm not kidding. On the first date, he's like, so how much money do you make? And I was like, excuse me? And he's like, what's your salary? How much money do you make? So I told him, and he was like, oh, okay. Like, kind of like, okay, you could you could afford to retire and be my stay-at-home wife. And I was doing pretty well. It was like I was like working minimum wage. But this guy was so loaded that the number I gave him, he's like, oh, okay, well, it's not significant enough for you to continue working, right? If things work out. And I'm like,
Not even asking you what you wanted or whatever,
I was like, I mean, I kind of love my job. I don't, I do it a bit.
I don't know if I told you this story. I was a ops manager. I was, doing pretty well for myself. I was with AA, and I went to, visit some friends in New York. I was working in Detroit at the time.
Right.
Rachel Hendricks asked me, what are Detroit women like? Mostly Midwest women, you know.
All right.
And they're
So
pretty,
nice.
down to earth, like,
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Jan, he was not Pete Hegseth because this was not somebody who worked at Fox, but I did work with Pete Hegseth, and I have great Pete Hegseth stories, which we can do another show on another time. But go ahead.
No, so I go to New York, and I was with a bunch of ad folks, right? So it's like advertising people, and there was one young woman, like gorgeous. She was a creative director, blah blah blah, and she's kind of holding court with like three different dudes, right?
Right.
And I kind of just wandered over. I was just making the rounds, and she was asking everybody. She's like, "So where would you take me if we got married? Where would you take me on a honeymoon?" Right? And so all these guys were like,
on a first date.
No. This is just at work. This is just
work.
like a work function, and she's just talking to dudes. Hey, if we got married, where would you take me? Okay. Oh, I'd take you here. I'd take you there. And it's like, I wasn't even in this conversation. So she gets to me and she goes, "What about you?" I said, "What about me?" And she's like, "Where would you take us if we got married?" I was like, "Oh, we're going around." And she's like, "What do you mean we're going around?" I said, "I work in aviation, baby." I said, "We're going to start in New York." I said, "You want to go to London? You want to go to Madrid? You want to go there? We're going to go there. We're going to stay there a couple days. And then we're going to go to Rome. I said, we can go here, we can go here, we can go here. I said, we're going to go around the globe. The question is, which way you want to go?" And she's like, "All right, I'm going to marry you." I said, "Of course you are."
Of course. That's fantastic. I'm ready to marry you. That's a great line. That's a fantastic. See, this is what I'm talking about.
It's like, listen, I'm like a plate of good Southern food. You don't know if it's going to taste good, but as soon as you start eating it, you're like, damn, this is pretty good. I need some more. Damn, this is good. Then you put a little hot sauce on it. You're like,
I don't know. I was near Fort Bragg in North Carolina once, and I ate something that I was so repulsed. It was like, you guys are into like knuckles and
oh yeah, that's good stuff, man. That's good. Yeah. That's good stuff now.
Yeah, Jan. Sorry, no, Julie is not sitting in tree with you.
No, she's got a husband.
As they said in Forrest Gump, taken.
She's taken.
Taken.
No, listen, the thing is, like, oxtail and pig's feet and all that stuff. Anything like, it's been in vinegar brine, you really gotta, it's like, you gotta be raised on that stuff. You can't just jump into it, right? That's the stuff that you gotta like, you gotta put like a slice of green tomato on a sausage biscuit before you could jump into that stuff. You can't just jump into it. No, you can't just, that's like the hardcore Southern food, right? That's the kind of stuff, you can't just jump right into that stuff, man.
Now, let me ask you this. Do you have a deal breaker that you won't like you won't date women who X? Like, what's your deal breaker? Is there a deal breaker?
Not really. I mean, like, really, it just, for me, comes down to values, right? That's all. Eventually is what it comes down to. Is like, are you ready to commit? And like, do you want to build a life together? What does that look like? What does that mean to you?
Yeah.
Because for some women, it's like, I want the house, I want the kids, I want, all that, blah, blah, blah. And for other women, it's like, hey, I just want someone to support me. I want someone to be there for me emotionally, but I want to go charge the gates and do my career. And that's fine too, So, I mean, for me, it's just, but it's like, do you keep your word? Like basic stuff like that, Are you ready to settle down? Like, because my thing is like, do you want someone? Do you want to build a life? Because to me, that's what a relationship is. You come together and you try to build a life together, whatever that is, whatever that's going to be, right? Some people, they don't necessarily want, like, some women don't want a relationship. They want support and they want friendship and they want companionship, but they don't necessarily want to build a life together. And so really, to me, it's like, in my experience, is like, which do you want? Right? Which one are you like, which do you really want? Because if you just want someone to support you every once in a while you running around doing your thing, yeah, I can do that. I can be a friend. There's no problem. And I'll be like, you got it, girl.
That's
You're doing
interesting
good.
because women, single women, and single friends I have talk about the same thing all the time, and they always say that they don't know men who feel that way.
Which way?
What you just described, like they think men. Maybe it's in New York. Like I feel like a lot of women in New York who are single feel like because New York's such a type A town that there's so many options for men that they don't ever want to settle down because there's always going to be somebody around the corner, right? Like
That
you'll
gets
always
boring. I mean, that just gets so boring after a while because
yeah.
it's like, it's because I did that when I was younger. I did younger on steroids when I was in the 90s. Like I was going out 5 to 6 times a week, sometimes seven. If you count picnics at the park, I was
Right.
going out every single day and I was chasing every woman I could, that would talk to me. Right. And so I dated a lot and I had a lot of first dates and it just all runs together after a while. And so, like when you meet somebody that you really click with on an emotional level, it's like, oh shit, this doesn't come along every day. What's up? And, so it becomes like that to me is like the sex is better, the intimacy is better, emotional support's better, and I think a lot of these guys, like, these men, it's like, especially if they get out of long-term relationships, they think they want that, right?
I
You know,
agree.
they
I
think
agree.
they want, oh, I'm gonna mess around with this. Yeah, yeah, all these young girls and all that. It's like, bruh, I was there. I dated younger women when I was a younger man, you know, dated older
So
women too, So yeah.
you know what? I hated first dates. First dates, I was so sick of telling my life story. I was so sick
Oh
of
God.
talking about myself. I've always said like what you really need back when I was, back then in the 90s and 2000s, you had I forgot what they were called, the little chip you put into the computer. The you know what I'm talking about, the little
Oh yeah.
yeah. And I was like, you just want to hand somebody that prior to the date and be like, this is my life story. Listen to it. I'm going to record myself telling you where I was born, what I do for all of that. And then if
Right.
you have
Right.
and if you have any questions, we can follow up on the date. But like, I don't want to hear about. I was so tired of telling my life story. I was so bored by myself. It was crazy. Like I was so bored of telling that story. And by the way, Linda Jean, you said you loved being single. I actually loved being single. I think that's when you find the person you're meant to be with was when you're comfortable being single because like it was great. You go out with your friends, you get to hang out on the couch and watch Lifetime Movie Network and not worry about anybody else. It was great. I loved it. And I think I would have been perfectly happy being single if not for meeting my husband because he was just it. Like he was the guy. But it took that kind of guy to get me out of my whole I like being single phase. So I'm with you. I think it's great.
I think for me, like in some of my headspace, I'm a little more, I don't want to say old school, but it's like, you know, I'm very much like I'm a monogamist, you know.
Right.
And for me, it's, I take obligations to a girlfriend or a wife very serious, especially a wife. It's very serious, where it's just like you're doing this thing. You're not just doing this thing for like, oh, this is just, chick I know. It's like, no, bro, this is your wife. You made a commitment, right? And I think that comes from being in the military for me is like I take oaths very seriously. I take if I give you my word, I'm going to do my damnedest to keep it. So if I tell you it's like, and we agree, it's like, hey, let's try to build life together. Well, that's what I want to do. You know, it's like, that's just it. It's like, and I don't consider that like, all right, I'm the man, I have manly duties, you're the woman, you have womanly duties. It's not that. It's like, all right, we're two people who are supporting each other that are trying to move forward in this chaotic and uncertain as hell world. How can I help you? And how can we help each other? And what kind of life do we want to live together? You know,
Agreed.
and it's really just trying to get to where, help, like, can I be part of trying to help you get to be your most authentic and best self, right? Because once that stops, the relationship's gonna stop. It's gonna collapse, because the type of woman that I feel like that is one of the worst things you could do to somebody is you try to diminish them to keep you from feeling terrible or feeling less than or this and that, right? To me, my role would be as your spouse or whoever would be to, try to help you. It's like, okay, what are you trying to do? Well, I'm trying to be an entrepreneur. I'm trying to be an artist. I'm trying to do this, or I'm trying to heal, or I'm trying to do this. Okay, well, So I think you asked about a deal breaker. I need to be with somebody who knows what they want. Now that might change, right? But I think the hard part, like I know what I want, right? It's like you ask me, what do you want? I want this, this, and this. So it's like, so if I've dated people, I don't know. It's like, well, then I don't know like what we're gonna do together. You know what
Yeah,
I
I
mean?
think by the time you get to be an adult, you pretty much should kind of know some sense of what you want out of life. It's fine in your 20s if you don't, and that's great, and there's somebody for everybody. But I'm with you that by the time you date at in your 40s and 50s, you should probably.
That's why I don't really like dating. That's why I wouldn't date younger women, man. It's just like most of them are still trying to figure it out, just like young men. And it's like, it's fine to be a mentor. It's fine to guide and in that sense, but it just seems too transactional and it seems too abusive in the sense of where it's like you have somebody who doesn't really know what they want to do. And you're kind of trying, the temptation to try to steer that woman into what you want her to be is too much.
Yeah.
Like, I think that would be, whereas if you get somebody who's been there, done that, learned some life lessons, and says, hey, I'm 40 something. This is where I'm at. Or, I'm in my late 30s, yada, yada. Here's where I'm at. It's like, okay, dig it, and then you can go from there, so.
Well, this Taco Tuesday has taken a totally different turn from what we started talking about.
Wow, we went on a tangent.
I like this tangent. I think this tangent's great. I think it's great to
Yeah.
take some time off and not talk about politics all the time. I did a live today about how Russia interfered in the 2016 election. It was so heavy. So I'm so thrilled to be doing this. I actually have to go for a really interesting reason. I'm getting acupuncture.
Okay, go get your acupuncture. Yeah, go get it.
Which I love, which I do once a month, and I highly recommend. And my husband and my son are both completely grossed out by the fact that I have needles stuck all over my face and all over my body. It's the best hour of my life.
So you do the actual puncture, like with the little needles, right? You don't do the purple.
Have you ever done it?
I've never done it,
It is so relaxing. And you're like kind of, that twilight sleep where have you ever had anesthesia where you're kind of like, anesthesia where you're kind of like not totally out, but kind of out?
Yeah.
That's what it feels like, but it's all natural. And I'm not one of those people who's like into natural medicine. So I'm not Gwyneth Paltrow, but this feels so good. It's like I'm chained to my house. I'm chained to my computer. I'm chained to work all the time. Once a month, I'd venture outside to go get acupuncture. And then I come back and go back to, my grind. But so that's why I got to go. But I'm so happy we got to do this Taco Tuesday again. I love Taco Tuesdays. They're great.
We should have more of these. We might have to transition to like dating talks or just, like a coffee clutch. That's what we need to do. There it is.
I have an idea for you. I'm going to run it by you. Everybody, you're the best. Thank you so much for joining us randomly at 2:30 on a 2:30 Eastern
on a Tuesday.
What is it? 12:30 for you on a Tuesday?
Yeah, it's 1:30 now. But now I'm going to go. See, you're going to do acupuncture. I'm going to go walk a dog. That's what I do.
You know what? I have to go walk my poor dog. I forgot. My son has to go walk my dog. He was supposed to. And he's clearly, I'm looking over there, doing something other than walking our dog. So thank you for reminding me. My poor dog is probably dying. What kind of dog is it?
So I'm going to go walk a chocolate lab named Tucker. Yeah. You say that now, but we have deer that kind of roam through the neighborhood.
So do we. Yeah.
And there was one that, a fawn that the mom left under the shade, and he wandered into the yard. And old Tucker, who's a Georgia chocolate lab hunting dog, got him by the neck, and that's all she wrote.
Oh, so real quick story.
And came around the corner But there's a woman over at the house, another woman up the house, come over to do something, and here he comes walking up with this dead fawn in
Oh.
his jowls, and freaked her out. And it's just like, well, put it in the dumpster. Put it in the
Well,
trash.
I'll tell you a funny story. About 3.5 years ago, 4 years ago, my son, who at the time was 9, um, decided he really wanted a dog, and my husband was like, "No, no, 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 no," and I gave in. I was like, "Okay." My husband refused, and both my son and I tried to gang up on him, we kinda did. And then ultimately, my husband said, "Okay, I've only ever had labs, so but I only want to rescue, so if you could find a rescue lab, great." So I was like, "Okay, no problem." I go online to, like, rescuelabs.com or whatever it is, that's a made up thing, but look up rescue labs online, and I see this little tiny black lab who's coming up, like, teeny tiny, who's coming up to New Jersey from Mississippi because Mississippi all has kill shelters, so there's this something called Southern Paws. They go down there, they round up dogs from the South who would otherwise be killed in shelters, and they bring them up north, and they try to find them homes. So this little dog, his name was Hagrid, and we both fell in love online. My husband fell in love. We're like, "Great, this is our little black lab." We bring him so we go to New Jersey when they finally bring him up. He's the sweetest, and I take him to the vet to get him checked out, and the vet goes, "Do you wanna do a DNA test just to make sure that he is?" I said, "Yeah, no problem." So he does a DNA test. This dog is 14 or 15 different breeds. Not one of them is a lab. None. 0. 0. And he has grown up now. He's about almost 4 years old. He's the sweetest. His name is Hagrid. We love him. But he does not look like a lab anymore. He's got this big schnoz. So we're completely defrauded. And my husband is a big runner. My husband goes running every single morning. He tries to take the dog, and the dog only goes running when the weather is nice. He refuses to go in the rain. He refuses, like the opposite of a lab. My husband's like, "This would never be an issue if you were a lab. I can't believe I got so defrauded." So we love labs in this family. We thought we were getting one. We got something completely different. We love him too, but you have to show a picture of this lab because we love labs in this house. Love, love, love. And chocolate labs especially are so beautiful and cute.
I will. Yep.
Awesome. All right, cool. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining.
Thanks
Bye.
again. Appreciate you
Bye.
guys. Have a good
Bye.
one. Bye.